have been talking about sugar, and I have been saying that, especially now with this pandemic, it's really important to maintain a strong and healthy immune system. And sugar is the first thing we need to address because every time you eat some sugar, it depletes, it affects in a bad way your body's ability to fight infections. So it's really important that we talk about it. So people ask me then if sugar is bad, so which one is the best? So there's a lot of confusion on that. There's so many different names for sugar. There's dozens of names that mean sugar. There's different types of sugar. So let's go to basic, and then we're gonna cover a few different types of sugar and give my recommendations at the end. So first of all, sugar is just a broad name that includes different types of molecules. So we have what we call a monosaccharide. So monosaccharide is one simple sugar, it's like glucose. Fructose. Fructose is the sugar in fruits. That's why it's called fructose. And galactose. So galactose is the sugar found in milk that the baby needs to maintain a good nervous system. So of course we don't really need galactose as you get older, as opposed as when you're younger to build your nervous system. So the most common one that we're going to talk about is glucose and fructose, like I said. So fructose is a sugar that is found in nature, in fruits, like I said, in vegetables, for example, in nuts, in a different type of sugar like dates, honey, coconut sugar. So it's a natural sugar. And glucose is a sugar that when you put it together leads to a carbohydrate. It leads to a complex sugar. Another name for it could be a fiber, for example. So glucose is mostly found in starchy foods like rice, potatoes, for example. So what we are concerned about when it comes to sugar is mostly fructose. Fructose, like I said, is the sugar found in fruits. And it's a concern because this sugar has been linked to increase the risk of, like, for example, heart disease, diabetes, fatty liver, cancer, and so on and so on. So there's more and more research showing the connection between fructose and health issues. The problem with fructose is there's just one organ that can process fructose, it's the liver. So if you eat a lot of fructose from vegetables, for example, not so much vegetables, but for fruits, for example, or just sugar in general, you burden your liver because your liver cannot process the fructose after a certain amount of what you eat. For example, doctors out there recommend that to eat no more than two fruits at the most a day. Otherwise, it burdens your liver to process the fructose. So what happens with this excess of fructose is your body, your liver, will store it as triglyceride, as a fat in your liver. There's a pandemic of fatty liver right now. So I think it's about 20-25% of the population that has a non-alcoholic fatty liver. So decades ago, we would see fatty liver in alcoholic. That's why we call it non-alcoholic, because we see it in people who don't drink. So it's because of this excess of fructose they eat. Okay, glucose is the sugar that your body will make or regulate into your blood. So when you check your blood level of sugar, it's glucose. So your body uses glucose as a fuel of energy. So your fat or your carbs that you eat can be converted into sugar, and your body will maintain your blood sugar into a certain range. And that's why you have like insulin that your body will make to regulate the sugar down, and you can make glucagon. We covered that last week. So your body maintain your sugar into a certain range. Otherwise, you can have hypoglycemia, or you can have diabetes if it's too high. So like I said, fructose is the main thing. So we need to cover what is fructose. Where's fructose coming from? So the main source of fructose is from processed food. Okay, the main source is high fructose corn syrup. So you may have heard of this. There's a lot more research, and there's a lot more people, mainstream media, talking about high fructose corn syrup. So that's the sugar made from corn. and it's about 55% fructose. So every time you eat that sugar, it actually burden tax your liver, and your liver over time gets fatty, and you have insulin resistance, and so on and so on. So this fructose or the sugar is it's coming from corn. So they use corn. It's a cheap grain, so they process the corn and make high fructose corn syrup. Today they don't call it high fructose corn syrup. They call it corn sugar. So it's really misleading. I believe it was last year that came out with a change. There was a change in the law, and now they could they are able to label high fructose corn syrup into as corn sugar. So if you read labels and you see corn sugar, it's most likely a high fructose corn syrup. So there's another sugar that we need to be concerned about, which is more toxic than high fructose corn syrup to me, is agave. Agave nectar or agave sugar has about 80-90% of his content as fructose. So it's twice as much as high fructose corn syrup. So it's really it's really concerning to me that people who try to eat healthy and they switch to agave, they actually burden and stress the liver even more. And actually, I've seen people over time when they use that sugar, they start having liver issues, and they start having like diabetes or diabetes-like issues, and the doctor are concerned about that. So that's a no. So the high fructose corn syrup, it's bad. Agave, it's even worse, so I do not recommend it. So the best sugar are there on what we call natural sugar. I'm a big fan of stevia, a good stevia company. Like one of the best that I have seen so far, it's a Sweet Leaf. So you can get the powder or the liquid. So this is a good source of sugar. I mean, we call it sugar. It's not really a sugar. It's a sweetener. So it's 100 times more sweet than regular sugar. So you can use it as a baking and different things. Monk fruit is a good option out there. So you can get it at the store. So monk fruit, stevia are really, really good. And then we talk about more natural sugar like dates. It's a fruit. It's a good sugar as well. Coconut sugar. So these are the four best sugars or sweeteners that I see clinically that people do really well. So monk fruit, stevia, coconut, and dates. These are good because dates and coconut sugar come with their own minerals. I talked about it last week. Is the problem with sugar is the body needs extra minerals like magnesium, like calcium, zinc to process the sugar. So natural sweeteners come with their own minerals. So the body doesn't need extra minerals to process the sugar. So it's more gentle on the body. So it doesn't really affect the body as bad as refined sugar like we talk about. And then we talk about, we need to talk about other types of natural sugar. Molasses, it's a natural sugar that is actually pretty good. Honey, there's a few concerns there, is 70% of the honey you find in the store has added a sugar like high fructose corn syrup. So 70% of the honey you find, it's not good. Manuka honey is maybe the best honey from New Zealand. It's clean, it's pure. So honey, you have to make sure that it's fresh. It's from a beekeeper, for example. It's harvested fresh. And a lot of people believe that, for example, that local honey is better. There's a yes or no on that. So there's a few things that you need to be careful. Yes, local honey is better because it's local, it's fresh, but it depends where it's made. Like we live in Houston, for example, there's a lot of beekeepers around, and the honey that they harvest, that they make, contain pesticides, contain pollutions, chemicals, and different things in it that shouldn't be. So local honey, it's good, but it depends how it's made. So if you're not sure, go with honey from New Zealand. New Zealand are more strict when it comes to using pesticides and the chemicals. The pollution is much better over there, so it's cleaner. And then maple syrup, it's a good sweetener as well. Again, it depends how it's made. So look into that. So of course, Canadian maple syrup tend to be better clinically if you can find Canadian maple syrup. And then alcohol, sugar alcohol. We have xylitol and we have erythritol. A lot of people in the keto world would use a Swerve. Swerve is a famous sweetener right now. It's erythritol base. but it has two other chemicals in it that I'm concerned. One is oligosaccharide, which is another name for sugar, actually. So we don't really know what it is. It could be a fiber, but again, the body would break it down as sugar. So I'm really concerned with soy. And then they add some natural flavors to it. So we have no idea what those natural flavors are. It could be corn-based, it could be wheat-based, milk-based. So I'm really concerned with soy. I'm not a fan of it. It doesn't work well with people. People have GI issues. They have gas and bloating and upset stomach. So I'm not a big fan of it. Xylitol tend to work better with people at a bigger amount than erythritol. So if you're not sure what to do, you can give it a try and see. Xylitol tend to help with tooth decay prevention as well. So there's some benefit to xylitol. So when it comes to sugar alcohol, it does work in some cases, but it's not the best. So you better go with stevia or monk fruit. So I think that covers all the different sugars. There's a lot of different names that you need to look for when it comes to reading labels. It can be different things. The most common one that I see in boxes and packages is maltodextrin. So maltodextrin is another name for corn sugar. So I would not use any product that has it. Dextrose is another name for glucose. So it's a type of sugar. So I'm not that concerned with it, like I said, because it's glucose based. It doesn't affect the body and the liver as bad as fructose. Of course, when you don't eat processed food, you avoid actually ingesting extra fructose, extra sugar, because like I said, the goal or the key is how much sugar you consume. So you have to look at your totality of your diet for the day. And I typically recommend somewhere 60, 70 grams of your diet on a daily basis should be carbs, sugar-based. So it's not a lot when you talk about it. Like I said, it could be 1 or 2 fruits, and that's it for the rest of the day. It's a small serving of rice, for example, some nuts, some berries. It could be a piece of bread. It's about 30, 40 grams. So this is where the body functions the best, somewhere between 60 and 70 grams. So this is where I will start with your diet, is I will look at how much carb, and carbs is broken down into sugar by your body. So it doesn't matter what you eat at the end of the day, the body will recognize all these as the same. So it's really important that you look at how much sugar you eat totally and see if you eat too much. So if you eat above 100 grams, it's way too much. You have to cut it down. And most people would do good between 60 and 70. And if you want to lose weight, you may have to cut even more than that. You may have to go like to 20 or 30 grams a day in order to lose some weight, which is a low carb keto diet at some degree. So like I said, carbs and sugar is really important, and you need to figure out where you are. And to help cutting back on carbs, I recommend people to eat more fat, because you cannot do both at the same time. If you eat more fat, you won't crave sugar. So that's what I recommend people to do. So eat more healthy fat and eat a little bit more extra protein as well. And that's going to help to reduce your carb intake and the craving of sugar. And that will help to figure out what we need to do with sugar. So at the end of the day, your body doesn't need carbs or sugar to survive. Your body can make glucose, sugar from fat, from protein. So this is a misconception actually out there, is you don't need sugar as a fuel. Your body runs on fat. For example, if you look at the Eskimos, they live in the north, and a few weeks, maybe a month, a year, they have some sun and they can have some fruits and vegetables grown. Otherwise, they eat everything from animals, fat, protein. So the diet is 100% fat and protein. They don't have carbs. So they don't need a carb to survive, and they are healthy and strong. So that's my point, is you don't need sugar. So work on that. Most people eat too much sugar. And as you cut back your sugar, you're going to start feeling better. You're going to feel sharper, more energy. You're going to sleep better. You may lose some weight. You won't get sick anymore. You won't get anxious and nervous anymore. You just feel better. So if you have any questions, please leave a comment below. I will get to you later. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed day.